Welcome to Total Reddit with another new story of r/cheating stories. I am Chris Everett with you throughout the whole story. Easter throw away husband. Before jumping the story, please hit the subscribe button to know when the next video goes live. I was exhausted after the call with my mom. So, I cried myself to sleep only to be awakened by a knock at the door around midnight. I got up and looked out the peephole to see my STBXW anxiously, waiting for me to open the door. I found me, much the less figured out what room I was in. But I did not want to see her or hear her voice. After what she did to me, she lost any right to even look in my general direction. So again, I used the motel phone. But instead of calling my mom, I called the local police. I called the local police. I stayed on the line explaining the situation as they sent 2 officers. I watched as the police removed my STBXW from in front of the door and led her over to the squad car. Then one officer knocked on the door, and I let him into the room. He assured me they wouldn't let my wife in, and asked how I wanted them to proceed. I explained I wanted her to leave me alone, and I wanted absolutely no contact with her ever again. He and I filled out all the necessary paperwork for a restraining order. He made sure I wanted, since it would limit me from being able to go back to my house on my own to get things without police escort. I told him I never wanted to enter that house again. I was done with her and she could have it, and the rest of our belongings. He got her to sign the RO. I watched her and the cops drive away, then went back a few hours. I made it to work the next day. Everyone asked how I was feeling, since they all thought I left due to being ill. I told them I still felt a bit under the weather, and told them I'd be working in my office all day, just in case what I had was contagious. I called my boss and asked him for a good time to meet in my office. 15 minutes later, he was sitting across from me. I'm sure he was there to get an update on the project my team was working on. When I explained the previous day, I discovered my wife had been cheating. He was almost as shocked as I was. I didn't begin to mention I'd soon be looking for another job out of state. But I did convey there was no chance of reconciliation, and as far as I was concerned, my wife was dead to me. It was all I could do to maintain composure and not cry. But I planned to dive into my work to distract me from my personal life. I explained at that moment, I need the actual work far more than I needed the paycheck which came with it. He assured me I could work as much as I wanted, and even crash in my office when needed. I thanked him for his kindness, to keep everything between us, until word leaked out. After work that day, I went by my parents' house for dinner. They had all my siblings and their spouses over as well. My parents called me aside as dinner was ending, and suggested I let everyone there know what had happened, and was about to happen. There were still a few people eating when I began to talk. But the news sort of ruined everyone's appetites. They all were as shocked and enraged as I had been. 2 of my siblings had gotten calls from my ex when I left and had for her. Both wished they'd known what was going down, so they could have given her a piece of their minds. I assured them and the rest of my family I just wanted my wife, and anyone related to her ignored, blocked from contact and ostracized. I explained it wasn't her family's fault. My wife is a worthless whore. And my wife had proved she was unworthy of any attention, positive or negative, sent her way. I then explained I would be looking for a new job in another state over the coming weeks. Some family members were angered. They weren't mad at me for feeling that what I needed to do. They were mad my wife sinned, and I was being punished by being removed from those that love and care about me. It didn't seem even remotely fair, I agreed. But the chances of getting every human related to her to leave the state out of shame wasn't happening. The next day, with my lawyer, for the first time. We live in an at-fault state, so the stack of papers proving infidelity was a welcome sight to her. I tried to approach that meeting with 100% logic and no emotion. All emotions are temporary, and letting your emotions lead you through life is a recipe for utter chaos. I explained. She and her staff would need to be the go-between for my wife and I until the divorce was finalized. I also explained there was a restraining order in place. I told her I didn't care about any of our possessions. Everything we owned reminded me of my STBXW. So, I didn't want a single item or the house we lived in. The only thing I was concerned with was that she could not touch my 401k or other investments given to me before marriage. That's when my lawyer asked, fair and equal divorce or scorched earth? I looked down and thought for a few moments. The emotional turmoil I was enduring had reached the point it was causing actual physical pain. I knew the events I was living through had changed everything forever, and there was no going back. A week before, if I'd been presented with a fair or no-holds-barred option, I would have gone with the fair route. But I felt nothing but loathing and disgust for the woman who lied to me nearly my whole life, and betrayed me like no one else had. I instructed my lawyer to take every available avenue to make the divorce as painful as possible. Any item my lawyer managed to get from my STBXW for me would just go into a big bonfire after everything was finalized. But at that moment I envisioned that bonfire being so large and bright it could be seen from space. After my wife financially, and if they could figure out who the AP was to go after him as well. My state has alienation of affection laws, which allows a person to sue someone who contributed to the end of a marriage in civil court. I told my lawyer if they discovered he is in a relationship, to contact his partner. In short, I wanted to make everything hell on earth for them both. I wanted to convey to my wife, I hated her beyond words, and I was out for blood. I wanted to destroy her life like she'd so casually destroyed mine, and let the pieces fall where they may. My lawyer me at work today to let me know my wife had been served at her job. She asked me to come by after work to talk with the messenger they'd sent to serve my wife papers. Just knowing she'd been served and was grasping I would never be any part of her life again was enough. But I decided to listen to the messenger in the sole hopes he might tell me my STBXW jumped out of a window after being served. He and I sat in an office without my lawyer present, as he explained he'd taken the paperwork by the school at around 10 a.m. He checked in with the front office as a courier led him to my wife's classroom. She was in the middle of a lesson as the employee opened the door. The courier said he walked past the staff member, asked my wife to verify her name, and told her she had now been served with official divorce papers due to infidelity. He said my STBXW was obviously shocked at the speed I was moving, embarrassed to be served at work in front of her students, and was fighting back tears. He told me as he walked out, she fell into the floor and began sobbing uncontrollably. That was all good to hear, and I was glad she'd gotten the paperwork. Honestly, I'm not even sure why I'm writing this out. It's been a bit cathartic, but I don't need advice. Well, at least I don't think so. As stated, I have everything planned out and the divorce is in motion and will take place. I just hurt so bad, and I'm truly struggling to find a reason to carry on. I don't want to. I'm not suicidal. There is no part of me that wants to die. I want my life back, and that is an impossibility. There can be no new life in she destroyed something pure and beautiful one can only attain once in a given lifetime. And despite her tears, she didn't even care. She took what we had and turned it to ashes with her infidelity. I'm struggling to envision my life totally alone until the day I die, and I die, and I don't want to go on. I hate myself for ever giving her a minute of my time, much the less years of my life. I feel like my entire life has been, and will be, a wasted life. Sure, I have a career and the capacity to move on. But doing it alone the race is just overwhelming me. I suppose I need to explain why I said I will never be a father and will be alone from here on out. But I was raised a certain way with a certain mindset. My wife was raised this way as well. It's one of the reasons we were so close. I guess in the end she didn't give a damn about her proper upbringing and decided to destroy us both in the process. I was raised to believe that humans were never meant to run around sowing oats and having meaningless tawdry sex with random hookups. I believe the most a human can achieve in this life is one where the two have only known each other. I understand in these modern times that point of view sounds archaic to most, if not all. But two people discovering intimacy together, every act of intimacy is a beautiful thing. Nobody has to worry about diseases and pregnancy. Nobody has to worry they aren't doing something as well as a previous partner they're so had because there were no other partners. You learn together. You grow together. Instead of living a life that would remove any STDs, unwanted pregnancy, paternity fraud, etc. Our world has made ways to correct those mistakes instead of having to face the consequences of foolish people. Two become one, and nothing can come between them. Or that's what I was led to believe. That is the way romantic relationships were meant to be, but humanity has run away from that mindset. That's what my wife claimed to believe to me more times than I could count. I couldn't begin to tell how many times my wife claimed to be grateful we lived our lives the way we did. She said she cherished the fact that way few people can anymore. I guess that was all bullshit lies. But it doesn't even matter anymore. Because of that mindset, there can never be reconciliation. And there is no way I could ever view her as attractive after seeing what she was doing behind my back. 1,000 each, and a pressure washer couldn't remove the diseased infidelity filth she subjected me to. I view her as defiled, diseased, and dirty. A week ago, I could just think about my wife and get aroused. Now she could lay before me naked and ready, and my reaction would be to spit on her in disgust, before again vomiting. And as I have known someone else, I can never have that bond with another human. I couldn't date a virgin even if I wanted to, because due to my relationship with my wife, I couldn't be what that hypothetical virgin deserves. I'm sure I will get some hate from various progressive readers who view sex as something to do with random people for fun and list sex as a hobby on their Facebook page. That's all fine and smuffy. Opinions differ, and I know my viewpoint is far from standard anymore. Man and one woman is the way it has always been supposed to be. My wife turned out to be a lecherous Jezebel cum dumpster, so that's my loss, and my own stupidity for choosing so poorly. I just don't think it's fair that I didn't commit the sin, but I'm the one who has to endure the hell of life the rest of my days. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for the next stories.